Hello everyone, welcome to week 1 of season 3. Today we are in Virginia International Raceway, a track that is a roller coaster, quite, almost literally. You're gonna see here that main characteristic here is the amount of runoff with grass we have here today. But despite of that, I feel like it's a track that we race a bit similar as we would race in a track of walls around us, because essentially, despite having this big ass runoff, if you touch the grass, for example, in turn 1 and you go long, you're gonna go long for 5 minutes. There's nothing that is gonna stop. There's no grip on the grass. So yeah, we drive a bit similar as we would drive on a track of walls. So yeah, one little comment about today as well. There was no quick reset used in this lap. It was like done on straight driving, so it was not driving until we hit perfection, to say so. And yeah, like this track, I think before ABS, it was a lot more fun to drive. I feel like with the ABS, the oak tree corner, it's quite a bit boring. You just brake very deep and that's it. Before you had to manage heavily the brake pressure and the micro locks. Because if you had a lock up there, you were really dead, like nothing was going to stop your car. In this case, now with ABS, I think it's extremely safe. You can just brake very deep and ABS pretty much takes care of everything. As always, we're going to watch the lap first and then we're going to do a very in-depth lap guide, right? So see you guys in a moment. And you can see here as well, obviously the deltas. So yeah, let's go. As you can see, 145.7. Final corner was far from optimal. I really blew the exit there. I lost half a tenth. But it's a track that is really hard to, ace laps compared to your optimal. So many little details and yeah, driving on limit here is not that easy. So let's go. About turn 1, as you can see, it's a very tight corner with a long radius. This type of corner, they scream distance and a little bit of a double apex, which is exactly what you're going to be doing here. The magic is how deep do you want to go on your double apex. If you go too far in the middle of the track, you're going to get a very good slingshot for the exit. But if you get too far, you're going to drive too long, so you're going to lose time on distance. Regarding the braking, notice that this track is never flat. Never flat. Even turn 1, it looks flat from the cockpit. You can see the track's a little bit banked to the left. As you enter turn 1, you go uphill and then the banking flips. You're banked now to the right, which is going to catch your car to the corner. In this case for turn 1, the gray here looks very flat, so you kind of want to be using it. Again, driving very short distance. We're going to be hitting the apex right now, going a very little bit of the car further out, and that is going to be our double apex. Now you're going to bring the car back for the exit. We don't really do a very classic double apex. It's it's very short, our outside line here. But again, you want to get the diagonal out for the exit. You can drive all the way near the gray curb here. Yes, you can. But then you're going to be very tight for the exit. which is going to overload the rear left tire. So you can play a bit here with how much you want to go out for the double apex, depending on how much exit you want to get. But always have in mind, you drive too long, you lose time on distance. And as the race goes on, we are driving 42-degree track. The rear tires are going to melt a bit. So that is going to probably call for a further out line on the middle for the exit for the apex here, okay? Always think about diagonals. Just to, be very brief here, the drawing, because I feel like verbally it's very understandable here. You want to hit apex 1, go out, and then come back. If you go way too long, you lose time on distance, but then you slingshot for the exit. Usually in this type of corner, there is a very slow corner, a very long radius. Distance is more important than exit. But you see here, like my exit here, straight line, which means good tires. If I'm exiting here on the white line, look at the angle I'm gonna get for the exit, which is gonna overload the rear left tire. Okay, so as the race goes on, you can play a little bit of this, very small window, but you can play a bit, depending if you have a car in front of you, or if you brake a bit too deep for turn 1, the car is gonna naturally go further out. So you're gonna be a longer double apex. But yeah, very simple. And then for the exit, nothing special happening. Now we come for the second part of the lap. Very difficult corner because, again, it's not flat, the asphalt. The first half, like this half of the asphalt, is banking left. The second half is banking right. So if you go further out here, you're going to be playing against the track banking. But remember, same thing as turn 1. If we take a shortcut, we're going to be very tight for the exit. If we drive long, we're going to be very good for the exit. You can play a bit of this. And remember, the more you brake here, the more weight you're going to transfer to the front tires, the more rotation you're going to generate. It's very common here to brake a bit more than what you should, and the rears get loose, and you get a bit of snap on the rear tires. The fix of this, it's never to brake more, because you're just going to generate more rotation, and you're going to spin yourself. It's very important not to let this instinct speak louder than the theory here. Sometimes, many times actually in this corner, braking last is faster because you put the car over the last rotation and the car can actually stick to the ground. Obviously, if you don't brake at all, you're just going to go straight. Or if you brake little, you're going to have no rotation. So the game here is how much you can brake to generate rotation without spinning yourself versus, plus how deep you want to go for the curb here on the outside for the exit. You can see here in my case, very smooth braking. I don't go fully on the outside because I think it's way too much. And as I said, we are already playing against the banking of the track here. But now we're going to slot in, get our diagonal, and go for the exit. Okay, very common here for the car to, kind of fall a bit down on this green concrete. I think it's also banking, to the outside, so the car has a tendency to fall a bit more to the right. As long as it doesn't destroy your section, no problem. Okay, but again, another corner where you can play a lot. Now we are officially starting sector 2. Very simple, really. You need to understand that what happens after this left and right-hander, it's a long straight. So if you go way too deep here in this left-hander, you're gonna already destroy the straight. Just to be a bit more objective with what I'm talking about. Let's get this camera here and expose it out. So again, as we saw on the first corner, diagonal is everything. If you go way too fast in this left-hander, your car is gonna go very, very deep, and you're gonna have a terrible positioning for this right-hander, which is gonna destroy the entire straight. And it's a straight that is very long, plus it's uphill, so you need a little bit more momentum. And essentially on turn 1 here, you're going to be sacrificing a bit more time because you want to be bringing the car more to the left, which is going to prepare us for this right-hander. This right-hander is also very interesting because the track here near this gray curb is falling heavily to the left. It's very innovative to go here to get the slingshot out, but you're also going to be driving a long distance here. Plus, it's very risky because if you clip the grass here on the left, it's pretty much death. So you can shortcut a little bit here. Don't shortcut too much because then you're going to get a terrible exit for corner 3. This is big corner 2. So you're going to destroy your exit. Okay, so coming back here for the actual lap. You can play a bit here with the grass as well on this left-hander, because if you pay attention, even though the curb is banked to the right, so it's going to push you to the right here, the grass is banked to the left here, so by slotting your tires here on this patch of grass, you're actually going to get a really good rotation because you're literally going to get held up by the grass here. Okay, so it kind of brings you to the left, and yeah, very basic technique, but we're going to see this a lot in this lap. Now for the right-hander, as I said, for the left-hander, sacrifice a bit to get us a good angle for the right-hander. Short shifting. Now this long right-hander, a lot of managing in the Toronto because the track is very dynamic here. And as I said before, banking heavily here for this outside, so be really careful. I do a very small shortcut. I think if you cut more than this, you're just going to destroy the exit. And I think if you cut more, you're going to be on the danger zone. But risk reward, you know the gameplay. For the exit here, maximizing as much as possible. Using here the curb here doesn't really matter much. And on the exit, we're gonna heavily overdrive because this curb it's very tall, very aggressive. It's gonna catch your car. You can overdrive. This curb is gonna catch your car. It's like a wall, like a fence. And then you're gonna be using the grass on the inside to bring your car left. This allows us to overdrive here the exit tremendously without getting an off track or destroying the lap. And how is this an off track, Bernardo? Well, technically, the middle of the car. Okay, let's get a bit more technical today. Technically, the middle. What is the off track trigger here? If you get all the 4 tires and you cross an X, the middle of the car would be exactly where my cursor is pointing at. So, like, you see the camera here, like 10 centimeters more in front. That is the technical middle of the car, which is the off track trigger point. On the track, the trigger point is the grass, and you can see here we are, quite a bit safe, to be honest. So yeah, using the curb here to catch us, and then the second curb again to catch us. And that was to be sector 2. Sector 3 here, it's where I lost a lot of time in this lap. Very easy to lose a lot of time, and I'm going to explain exactly why. So all of this is flat, not much happening here. Now you're going to start to prepare the right-hander, and you're going to see here the grass once again being used in our advantage. We're going to be clipping the inside here because the grass is going to hook us up to the inside. Now, if you pay attention, you're going to be going uphill, 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 uphill until now, which is now we go downhill. What is going to happen is the front tires are going to lose compression because they're going to be falling, more or less, right? So they lose a bit of bite, which means it's very easy to overdrive, which is exactly what I did here. I overdrove a little bit on the entry. I didn't manage to get my car all the way to the right, and I had a turbo exit. I underdrove tremendously here, lost a 10th. You can see here on the exit, hesitating a lot. And again, now we're going to heavily go downhill. Car's going to basically fall like 5 meters in a few seconds. So the car loses a lot of compression, loses a lot of capacity of turning, rotating. The car gets really loose. Yeah, but this corner is a very big case of risk reward. I had a bad entry. I knew that if you have a bad entry here, the car gets really easy to understeer. So I went a bit safe. Lost a 10th. Hesitated a lot. That's a 10th. It's very common to get an off track here on the exit. Honestly, it's part of the business. If you're far from the off track here, you're very likely losing time. So don't be scared of this. Now, Oak Tree Corner, very easy break points around this track. You have the big markers here. This corner used to be extremely difficult in the past because of no ABS. Now with ABS, it's honestly a breeze. Again, another corner where you have, quite a few things happening that you can play with. Let's be technical about it. So braking. What is the technical thing about this corner? Well, what comes after? One very big straight, right? So you have a bit of a task in your hands. You can either go very deep and then you slingshot out, right? You slingshot out based on this angle, or you can go a bit tight and then you sacrifice your exit. So you have the task in your hand of shortcut versus long with exit. As the races go on, remember, if you do this orange line, which is like very tight in the middle, look at the angle you're going to get for the exit. It's going to be tremendously bad compared to the yellow line, right? The yellow line, you're getting like a straight exit, which means better traction. As the race goes on, your rear tires will be destroyed. So I think you're gonna lean more and more as the laps go by with the later apex here. In my case, very simple. Brake in a straight line, you can brake heavy. As you start to point your car, you need to trail, right? Don't have to worry about lockups. Very simple. I'm going very deep, because I'm focusing on my exit. Something interesting about this corner is that this curb is very annoying. If you see here this gray curb, it's also not flat, right? This gray curb is already banking, and then the green curb is even more banking. The problem here is that you don't want the traction to be involved with jumping. I would personally try to avoid this gray curb because the car's not going to be jumping. You're gonna see here that I'm going to do a very small kiss on the curb. That is going to raise my fronts a little bit, and it's going to make my car have a few jumps. Not a big deal. I don't think I lost any time, but you have to be ready for this because as you press throttle, the rear is going to be jumping, you're going to lose traction, and you might likely have a bit of a snap like I had, which is honestly perfectly fine. I think if you don't have any snap here, you're probably under driving. I mean, as you can see, I went very deep, lost a lot of time on the mid corner, but my exit, boom. Very nice, right? As I said, traction there is very limited. As the races go by, you're probably going to be, leaning more and more with the late apex and the slingshot on the exit because the rear tires are going to demand better positioning for the traction. Sector 5. So what is the goal here? Braking very deep without destroying the exit. But if you pay attention, it's a double braking. So right now, it's a straight line. Let's do a little bit of a drawing again because I love drawing. Okay, and then it's going to be very easy to understand what exactly is going on here. So, we're a bit far, but whatever. Right now, straight line braking, right? You can brake very aggressively. Suddenly, it's a trail brake because you're rotating the car. So suddenly you have to trail. But right after, or immediately, you have another straight line. So you can come back on the braking heavy again. And then it's the final trail braking over here. So you end up with a brake trace more like this. What is the problem here? A lot of people that are going to brake, stop braking, and then brake again. If you stop braking, it just means you're losing all of this energy here that I would have. And you're going to have to compensate, and you're going to have to brake earlier to compensate for the fact that you're not braking at all over here. Need to be careful with ABS because if you overbrake, you're going to enter ABS. The car is going to just lose performance due to many factors. But essentially, heavy braking. Now you're going to be trailing. Trying to bring my car a bit to the left here because I want to open the angle for the right-hander. Okay, and now another heavy braking. So just full speed. Heavy, trail, heavy, final trail. And then very tight, save distance. Traction here is a bit weird because of the whole, topography. Again, on a downhill, the car loses a bit of compression, loses a bit of grip. Very easy to get some snaps. In the final corner where I lost a lot of time, I didn't manage to fully bring my car on the left of the grass with my left tires. I didn't get the, the clipping from the grass. My car was more to the right here for the final corner, and then it had a terrible angle, way too tight on the entry here. This curve, actually not a problem to use because this is a big fall. You're not applying a lot of weight on the curb as you would expect, so the curb doesn't really push you away from the corner, even though it's a curb banked to the left, because your car is not really compressed. The curb is not really affecting and not really throwing you away. But yeah, use the grass here on the left side tires to get the hugging from the grass. That is going to open more for the right hander, and that is going to allow you to get a slingshot out. Yeah, I went way too deep there, pressed throttle a bit more aggressive, and the car was just snapping, and I lost half a tenth. So, very technical track, many things happening here. Big straights, so overtaking it's very, there. But even though you drive close to the car ahead, it's very easy to defend as well, so it's quite balanced. Now the pickup has less draft. I have not raced yet, so I don't really know how it is. But I don't expect it's going to be that much of different. It's a difficult track to actually nail the lap, as I said before, so expect to see, bigger gaps-ish with your all-time optimal or your session optimal. And yeah, so I expect with actual practice you can do 6, low, maybe 0.5, honestly possible. And there's always margins here. But yeah, okay, hope you guys enjoyed. As always, this lap was done using my setup. Everything is in my Discord if you want to get the setup. And hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next week. I think it's at Fuji. Bye bye.